Hey guys, welcome to Nude and Lude podcast. We're on number 12, Dirty Dozen today. We've gone into the depths with mine and Mike's story, and now I saw Wakanda Forever yesterday, and so I've got a Wakanda analogy here. Now we're shooting up out of the ocean like Namor, and we're going to find something else to get into.
And who are you?
Who am I?
Uh-huh.
I don't know who I am in Wakanda. Have you seen it yet?
No. Who are you?
Oh, shit. I'm Joanna. I am Joanna Lewis Derrick. Thanks for being here. This is my lovely friend. You want to tell them who you are?
Julie Cole. We're keeping it. That is authentic as it gets.
Yeah. I always forget to introduce myself. I think there's something to that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've shot out of the ocean, the depths, and we are finding something else to get into. And look at that. We already found it.
Mm-hmm.
We did.
Yeah, we got a good one for today.
We got a good one for today.
It's going to be rock your socks.
Yes. So before we get into that, though, let's do gratitude. And then I found this little guy at the Barnes & Noble.
Tell me your sins.
It's a miniature confessional.
Yes. And so we are going to do a confession and a point of gratitude.
I want to hear your confession. Let's go. Can we do that?
Yes.
Jump in.
And it is not scandalous this time.
Damn it.
I know. No, you know what I did?
Every time you think it's not scandalous, though, it has a layer.
This would be scandalous to Colton.
Mm-hmm.
Scandalous. So this morning he wanted toast. And so what was that?
I was just rubbing my lips
mouth
together.
Fart.
I was rubbing my lips together.
It squeaked out something. I was making Colton toast this morning, and I burnt it. And so when it was ready for him, I called him and I turned the lights off and sent him packing with it. And all the lights were off in the house. All he had on was the TV. And it was, you couldn't see the burn. And so he hated it. That's my confession.
That's
I thought
so
it was,
funny.
I mean, seriously, I put a lot of thought into it because I thought about throwing it away. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to throw that, because it wasn't like charred.
Right.
It was still edible. But I knew if he saw it, he'd be
wouldn't
like,
eat
oh
it.
my God. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw a hilarious reel the other day. It was talking about kids, and it said something like, the kids eating like 4 or 5 bites of the food, and they're like, this is so good. And then all of a sudden they're like, is that a piece of pepper?
Jeez.
That is
What
Julia.
is it with pepper?
I know. Julia sees a piece of pepper and it's over and done with. She can be like
Yes.
95% through her meal. She'll be like, I'm not eating the rest of that. That has pepper on it.
And I guess their brains aren't developed enough to like make the connection that, but I've eaten 95% of it with pepper. Maybe they think the pepper's not in the rest of it. And that was a lone piece of pepper.
They didn't taste it before.
I don't know. Okay. And then gratitude real quick. My point of gratitude is that I'm grateful that I don't have to be grateful about anything right now.
Oh, yeah. You don't have to.
Yeah, I'm not, and I don't want to be right this second.
Be
so
where you are.
yeah, I'm not grateful for shit right now. Next.
I'm not trying to laugh. I'm so sorry. Because I know why not, and it's not funny, but I'm like laughing at your face. You're like, fuck it. I'm going to.
Fuck it, I'm not grateful.
Yeah. Fuck the gratitude requirement.
I'm an ungrateful heifer right now.
You can be neutral. You don't have to be ungrateful. You can just
I'm pretty ungrateful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll say sometimes it's just like, meh. Yeah,
No.
I'm not going to create something that's not there.
Pretty ungrateful. Your turn.
Tell me your sins.
So I think I can probably wrap that in with my point of gratitude. I was not planning on a confession today, and I don't want to do something that I don't want to confess to something I want to unconfess. Joanna's face. She's like, "Oh, please do,
Yes.
please do." This weekend I got away to a women's retreat, and I was just really grateful to have the connection, for a variety of reasons. I got some clarity around some things I needed to get clarity on. I connected with some girlfriends that are just old friends, and I was laughing. You and I were laughing with somebody before this. I was like, it's that moment where I was just grateful that in the last 2 years I've really worked hard on weeding out friendships that take away from my life.
Yeah.
Right. That don't feed the core of what I really, really want in my life. And in terms of reciprocal friendship, and it actually, that's a good segue to the topic too. But, but I have, I'm surrounded, I have a number of women in my life that literally could legitimately blackmail the shit out of me if I won the lottery, because I'm so transparent and honest about what's going on in my life with them. And I was with 2 of them this weekend, and I'm with one of them today, and so I'm like really grateful. I'm like, get yourself friends that could blackmail you for real, with the stuff that like they really could wreck your life with, and not just the superficial details, but like the parts that hurt you because you're vulnerable, and I was able to like sit with vulnerability with some of the women I had not ever met before this weekend, around some stuff that I've just been needing some clarity on. And I'm really grateful for it. And then we did this exercise where we got angel cards and heart cards. And the angel cards really are kind of like the idea. If I understand this correctly, is like really it's a word, and it's the idea is that like the spirit moves you right to the angel part of it is like your angels helping you operate within that context of that word. And mine was simplify. And I've been keeping a lot of things complicated in my head and my heart that needed more simplification. And I actually got some of that this weekend. But then, I guess the confessional part is like, I've been struggling with really wanting to like putting all my eggs in one basket and asking one person to really love and value me in a very specific way, or actually just in general, but in a very specific way. And that hasn't been happening. And my heart card was, you are loved and appreciated by many. And I was like, and I just heard very loud and clear also like, my creator saying to me, like, more importantly, you're loved and appreciated by me. I created you for a purpose, and you're lost from that, and I got some real peace around that, it's pretty powerful.
Yep.
So that's my point of gratitude and my confessional. Right? Yeah.
And that's how it's going to go today.
Yeah.
Is I told Julie earlier, I am like in sharp brain,
I get it.
brainstem right now. And I think, you usually are more frontal lobe than I am. I'm real primal and feral feeling today. So
it's okay.
Yeah.
I have been a lot of that recently, and the analytical, I'm like trying to let the analytical brain rest, to like make space for some tenderness, but it just hasn't been safe, in all spaces to do that.
Yeah.
So our topic today, we were, I just threw it out to you this morning. You're like, let's roll with it. I'll start it with a riddle.
Okay.
Right. 3 frogs on a log. 2 decide to jump. How many frogs are left on the log?
1.
Think about it. 3 frogs on a log.
And
2
2
decided to jump.
Uh-huh.
How many frogs left on the?
Well, no, did they really jump?
Well, they decided.
Yeah.
Right.
But did
3.
they?
So there's 3 frogs left on the log.
Yeah.
Because they decided to jump. They didn't actually jump.
They just decided to.
Yeah. So, you see the segue?
Yeah.
So we were talking about intentions. I'll just throw it out there. And, a very practical thing that I kind of got reconnected with this weekend is like if making sure we define the words that we're using so we're clear on what that means. So this morning when we were texting, we were talking about like intentions versus actions, right? And so I looked up the definition of intentions, and it's a really simple one. A thing intended, an aim, or plan. And then I looked up the definition of action, and I was like, you can't make this shit up. The fact or process of doing something, typically to achieve an aim. So an intention is a thing we intend to do, something we aim at, right?
Yep.
The action is how we actually go about closing the gap between our intentions and the aim itself, and actually achieving the aim, right? By taking the action to close the gap between the two. And wow, like that definition kind of really hit home for me.
Mm-hmm.
It really hit home for me. Because, one of the things I don't know. we'll get into that a little bit more of the deeper pieces of it in a minute.
Okay. And I'd love to talk about also the whole, this is taking it away from myself and also not, because I've made this comment before also, you know, I had the best of intentions.
Sure.
You know, and that's also intending and then acting on it. And then when the action doesn't hit, right? Saying, well, I had the best of intentions.
Not necessarily in all cases, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. No, not in all cases. But it always has struck me that...
you wanted credit for your intent.
And also to the belief
Yes.
that my good intention was actually good for
The other person.
the other person.
Okay, so I'll use the Julia story. So one of the ones, I had a couple of stories that we could use as basis. And
Yeah.
Julia's story is a great one. Did you see me write about that recently?
I don't know. Keep talking.
Okay, so we were walking somewhere the other day and a couple weeks ago, and Julia went to grab my hand and she scratched my hand.
Yes.
accidentally. And I said, "Ow, that hurt." And she said, "No, it didn't."
Yeah.
And I said, "You don't get to choose whether you're you know, like you saying that you didn't hurt me didn't change the fact that you hurt me."
Yeah.
And then she said, "Well, I didn't mean to." And I said, "Okay, like I understand that too, but how about mommy? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
You know, and then I didn't mean to, right?
Yeah.
Like, so one is, you know, so what happens is we want the credit for our intentions, right? And we actually discount the other person's reality that we've hurt them or that they didn't land or that we feel invalidated or whatever it may be because we didn't intend to. And one of the ways we reconcile it in the making amends is really we have to empathize with what the reality of the action was. And when we empathize, we connect, and then we can contextualize.
Yes. And yeah, so that's one of the interpretations of the whole good intention thing. What I have experienced in the recent past,
Right.
is more of this this deflection that the good intention is meant to deflect me away from how I feel
Sure.
about the action, and also to maybe not get, for the other person, maybe not to get credit for it, but like for the action itself, but like this, I meant well.
Yeah.
You know, kind of thing.
It still dismisses the hurt
Yes,
or the
it does.
reality of it.
It does. And also, like, I've been...
Well, we're going a little bit deeper yet. So can I back it back out just a hair? Do you mind?
No.
Okay. Because I was going to tell this story. Like, I have this friend from grad school. I won't say her name. But I went through this period where, like, I was, you know, in grad school. I was working. I was trying to do the young people's conferences and be involved in my recovery. And I just had a million things going on, right? And I had this girlfriend that was not in recovery. She was a friend of mine from school. And she kept saying, you know, like, "You're not being a good friend." And I'd be like, "What does that mean? I'm doing everything I can. And, like, I love you and I care for you." And, you know, and she's like, basically asking me to show up in certain ways. Like, "Hey, can you come to this thing? Or can you be with me while I do this?" Or not answering the phone if she called because I was tired because I'd answered the phone for 10,000 other people. Right.
Yeah.
And so what's in, like, the reason why I brought it back up is, like, this is a layer where we kind of jump from here to here, right? We jump from the top to the bottom, and, like, in the middle is where most of us lie a lot of the time, right? A lot of us lie in this place where we literally have warring priorities and we're just trying to prioritize, but because we can't reconcile certain things within ourselves, we don't show up in the way we should. And we want credit for the way we want to show up instead of the way we're actually showing up. And I can remember she fired me as a friend. She's like, "You're not a good friend, and I got to move on. I can't have a friend like you." And I was like, "What is up with this bitch?" You know? I literally couldn't see it. I'm like, "I'm doing everything I can. I've tried." And the thing you're mad at me, and the thing that she was mad at me about was, like, something I didn't have control over, you know? And I was like, "I don't understand." And she's just like, "Hard stop. This is done." You know what? It took me another 15 years. Like when I was in 2020 and I was really starting to like carve out like the fat of relationships, like friendships that were service projects, right? People I was trying to take care of and help and do all this stuff that couldn't reciprocate. And when I started actually investing in relationships where there was reciprocity, it hit me. Like, and if the time ever comes and I come across her, I'll make amends for that because I couldn't see it. For 15 years, I couldn't see it. Literally. You know, and how many of us have relationships that have bygone because we couldn't show up in a way that somebody needed us to because we're caught up in our own shit. And then we finally get to a place where we resolve that shit and we can look back and go, oh my gosh, you know?
Yes.
And even talking about unintentional things, I made a note here. You know, one of the things to understand is that like not being able to show up for somebody, like wanting to be judged for our intentions is a reflection of a disconnect of self. You know, and that was a disconnect for myself. Like I didn't have the way in me to prioritize that friendship at that time. You know, when I got to that place, you know, I would love to be able to just share with this person. Like, I do appreciate that because it meant something. The fact that she took a stand and fired me as a friend meant something. It meant her taking care of herself, which is a demonstration I pulled from and got inspiration from when I needed to fire people from my life. Like, and not in an ugly, cut you off, canceled way, but in a, I can't invest energy in a place where somebody can't return the energy.
Yeah.
You know? And so that was, you know, so the disconnect from others is a symptom. And I put on here that it's really like the point of the 12 steps, right? Especially steps 6 through 12 or 6 through 9 in 12-step fellowships is the reconciliation. When you do your inventory in your 4th step and you kind of take a look at the nature of your behavior in step 5, like it says to conclude that others were wrong was as far as most of us have ever gotten. And then it goes on to say, like, the alcoholic lives a double life. You know, he wants to enjoy a certain reputation, but he knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it, right? He wants to, you know, so it's this idea of who we want to be versus the person that we actually are. And in substance use and other behaviors where we're disconnected, Mike and his sex addiction, right? You know, we don't mean to hurt people, but we hurt people nonetheless.
Yeah.
You know, and most of us get resentful at them for being hurt by us. They get resentful at them. I mean, they get resentful at us for, you know, like I would be resentful at people for being upset with me because I'd hurt them because I didn't intend to hurt them. And so then this whole narrative of this person, me as the victim, emerged. So I'm the one actually causing harm to the other person because I can't reconcile that my actions actually don't align with what I intend to be. And I can't see that my actions harm another person, or I can't own and sit with humility, that truth, right? And so what do I do to protect myself? I shame, I blame, I deflect. And those are the things you're talking about.
Yeah.
And deepening the peace, right? You know, so I don't know. And so did you want to read the thing I sent you this morning?
Yeah.
And then that segues. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I felt like we were missing a piece that I wanted to add some context for. I was just dictating this to myself this morning as I thought about what we were, you know, the topic.
Yep. I do want to get back to the good intention though.
Yeah.
It's been eating away at me for a while.
Yeah.
Okay. In a way, repeatedly asking to be judged based on your intentions and not your actions almost feels like gaslighting to the other person. You keep asking them to give you credit for something you're not doing, but that you keep saying you want to do. And when they bring up your concerns, they're minimized and dismissed. Your concerns are minimized and dismissed.
Yeah.
So the person who is asking for action and not intentions is feeling invalidated and ignored. And the person who is asking to be judged on the basis of their intentions feels satisfied and justified because they feel the satisfaction of their intentions, but not the pain of their lack of action. The intentions leave the person feeling accomplished for something they actually never did and drive a huge disconnect between the person with the intentions and the person asking for the action.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So then there's the resentment because of the disconnect. There's a complete inability to take responsibility for the disconnect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, and my foot is caught on something. Sorry. And yes, and and this whole satisfaction, that part about the accomplished and the satisfaction goes back also to this. Then we throw that word good in front of it, good intentions, like trying to even bolster it up, even, prop it up even more. And but I've got good, not only are they intentions, which means, I'm thinking about acting, but they're good intentions.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about acting in a good way.
Oh, I need you to understand, I'm not meaning to hurt you.
Yeah.
I'm not, but there's no empathy. And that's the piece, like where we can contextualize and build connection with the other person around our misguided attempt at intentions is that we can see it. We can empathize with it. It's the example I use with with Julia, which is like, oh, Mommy, are you okay?
Yeah.
I didn't. And then if I say, well, I'm okay, I just need you to understand it hurt. And she said, okay, I really didn't mean to. And I say, okay, baby, I know you didn't mean to.
Yeah.
That's connection building, not, no, you didn't. You didn't feel that way. And then when you say, but I did, well, I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to hurt you. That's not what I mean. I need you to understand. Okay, I'm going into shark brain. I need you to understand this, and this. I didn't not show up because I didn't love you. I didn't not show up because I don't care about this. I don't, like in my friendship, I didn't not show up because I didn't care about the friendship.
Yeah.
And I kept asking her to understand that. She finally to say, like, it doesn't matter why you're not showing up. You're not showing up. And at some point I have to remove myself from that because you're not fucking showing up, and I deserve better from somebody who's going to actually show up as a friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, or you take the cue
Yeah.
that this person is continually saying they're going to show up
Yeah.
and then not showing up, and you take the cue and
Absolutely.
deuces like she did. Yeah.
Well, not, and deuces is not always the option or the thing, but like where, for me recently, what I realized this weekend, and I was at a recovery conference, and they were talking about this example in the big book about the jaywalker, and the jaywalker keeps getting hit by a bus, because he keeps trying to jaywalk across the street. He keeps trying to jaywalk in a different place, in a different space, in a different way, but he keeps getting hit by the bus, and the whole point is like, don't walk across the street.
Yeah.
I realized like recently, like I'm in a situation where somebody has a lot of intentions, but a lack of action, and the lack of action is causing me harm, but highlighting it is creating a lot of conflict, and I'm being blamed for the conflict because I'm highlighting the lack of action, and then, the answer to that is, but my intention isn't to harm you. My intention isn't to hurt you. My intention isn't to not show up. It's not to, I have all these other things that I have to do. And I'm like, that's actually almost worse.
Yeah, because to me it feels like when that continually is happening, it feels like this person is just trying to buy time to just continue to do fuck shit.
Right. Well, and even that, it's like, yeah, all these things are important, but what you're saying is all these other things are more important. Mm-hmm. And you can't prioritize the thing that I'm saying, like, I'm hurt. Like, I'm deeply hurt and alone and scared. And I'm alone in that because every time I bring it up, then I get beat the fuck up for bringing it up,
Yeah.
Like I get beat the fuck up for bringing it up. So, and then I get in trouble if I get quiet, and so it's like this kind of lose-lose situation. But like I was sitting there because I've just recontextualized it and re-explained it and tried to send it in emails and write it out. And I was like, holy shit, I'm the jaywalker trying to like force somebody to see something they can't see. And ultimately,
or they don't want to see. It's,
in this situation,
I'm not talking about you.
Yeah,
I'm talking about in general.
Yeah.
I don't believe that people don't see it necessarily, especially after that long of a period of time. And I'm not talking about specific, but no.
Well, and I think about, because I know that, I couldn't see it. When I think about my friend, like I couldn't see it. Like she laid it out plain as day, even when she fired me, right? She said, like, you're not a good friend. But I was able to like go to all these other situations. I had all these newcomers from AA calling me, and I'm like helping them, like, you're such a help to me, so I've always got all these new relationships around me of people who are feeding in and need me. I'm like, you're telling me I'm a bad friend, but I'm over here with all these other people who are telling me how amazing I am. And one pattern in my life at that time is I had nobody consistent.
Yeah.
Like I had a new friend here and a new friend there and all these new people coming into my life that were new and different. but no consistency and deepening with one person, which is why for the last couple of years, it's been so important to me to deepen with the same people.
Yeah.
And to show up, like show it all out. There's no secrets. I have no secrets, And I'm not saying that about anybody else. I'm just saying for me. But it took me getting to that place 15 years after she fired me as a friend to see. So I choose to believe that most people actually are operating in blindness, right? Because they just can't see that thing about themselves at the time. The part that that for me, I've had to disconnect from is the idea that is tied to my worth or value in any fucking way.
Yes, in any situation, whether they see it or don't see it, absolutely. It has nothing to do with our worth as people. Yes. And it's not personal even.
Right.
It's not even personal.
Even though it's terribly personal.
It feels terribly personal. Yes. Yes. And especially with, there are people in our lives that
I have a piece of my skin on my lip that's coming.
We do not expect this from, for sure.
Well, and if we stay in relationship with people long enough and thinking about long-term relationships like friendships or other things where we grow disproportionately, and we'll have periods where we're connecting really well, periods where we're not. I mean, that's why, like, if you talk to anybody who's been married for years or been friends with somebody for decades, there's a lot of allowing space, allowing autonomy, giving people time and periods and understanding, So there's this balance between like giving space for those things, but then how long do you give that space?
Right.
I think, I think that's tough, and I think it looks different in friendship than it does in marriage,
Yeah.
There's some functions of interweaving your life together.
Yeah.
That force you to stay and work through things you wouldn't otherwise stay and work through.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's actually a really beautiful part of it, as painful and as hard and as discordant as it can be at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah. And I think also, our body tells us once we've gotten to that point, no matter if it's romantic relationship, friendship, relationship, whatever, I was crying hysterically every day of my life.
Yeah.
For several years.
Yeah, that's not healthy.
There's my sign.
Yeah.
I don't cry now.
Yeah.
I do I cry tears of joy for the first time.
Yeah.
And I cry tears of sadness, but I'm not hysterically crying about, I don't even know what.
Yeah.
Well,
and then there's this piece of it where we're with somebody who's operating in intentions and not action, where somewhere there's an invitation to abandon ourselves, and then there's literally an invitation to rescue ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, truthfully. Like, in the abandonment of self is I go back to the first season of, Grey's Anatomy, and everybody who's ever seen it knows exactly what I'm talking about. Meredith Grey sitting there looking at McDreamy and going, choose me, pick me, love me. Yeah. Or the end of, there was a movie that came out around the same time as the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. And in it, there's a couple. And at the end, she's standing in the rain. He's like, leaving her for his mistress. And she's like, I can't believe you're leaving me. And he says, I don't even know who you are anymore. And I remember seeing that and thinking, because she's lost herself and trying to be what she thought he wanted.
Yeah.
Or hustling for so the abandonment of self in any of these relationships is also looks like I'll lose myself. And they get resentful about that too.
Yeah.
Because then there's shame because we've lost ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's in friendship. That's in parenting.
Yeah. And
that's in marriage.
And that shit'll make you cry hysterically.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, how do we reclaim ourselves? One of it is being clear about what our intentions are.
Yeah.
And our actions are.
Yeah. Well, and yes. For me, it was removal. I had to remove myself.
Yeah.
Literally remove myself in order to recover myself.
Yeah. I know in some friendships I've been able to just like create space.
Yeah.
So in friendships I've been able to say, hey, this is what I need, or taking seasons away you know, and then come back together and had, you know, at a time and space where we could have those real honest, truthful conversations.
Yeah.
I had one of those, last year, 2 years ago? I guess 2 years ago. It was beautiful. Like, it was she's a soul sister.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to sit down, you know, and she had misread actions I was taking to take care of myself, and misread it as intentions. You know, there's a difference between that. I was like taking actions that had nothing to do with her, that had nothing to do with our friendship. I was seeking friendship with folks who could show up in the way that she couldn't for a season.
Yeah.
And when we got back together, she said, you know, I just felt like I feel like you leveled up and left me.
Yeah.
And that's going to be really painful.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be really painful. And she
Yeah.
said it is. And we cried together. I didn't have to be like, that's not true. That's not right. You don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, we cried together, and I just validated that, like, that sounds like it really hurts.
Yeah.
And once we did that, I said, I really want you to know, like, this is what I value in those friendships. So what you see on the outside is not what's happening in the inside there. And I value this about you too. We were just disconnected from that for a season, and I want us to get reconnected around that. So what I need from you is authenticity. I need you to show up when we're trying to connect. I don't need you to show up every day or be the person who answers the phone every time, or, you know, that's not who you are. I know that. And then we've recontextualized our friendship, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, it's really beautiful, but we had a season. And so can you recapture yourself in the context of a relationship, a marriage, a parenting, as friendship? I'll say marriage in this one. You know, can you recapture yourself in a way that doesn't leave you crying every day? You know, what are all the things that you can do to create space for yourself, to honor those things about yourself, to validate and see your worth and do all of that stuff? There's a difference between somebody who's can't show up in that space because they have their own stuff they're working on, and somebody who's intentionally trying to erode that for you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
My situation isn't one where somebody's trying to erode anything for me. In fact, like, the idea that they would erode those things for me would just be terribly heartbreaking for that person. You know, like, it's really more about they need space to do their own work.
Yeah.
And so me taking care of myself gives them the freedom to take care of themselves. You know, and we get to come back together at a time when we're feeling stronger about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
This is a real raw one. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I have a very, it seems superficial example, what I was telling you earlier. And I know I can tell this story. She and I love each other very much. And we are working through parts of our friendship.
Yeah.
She is a super friend, and I am not.
Sure.
And this has been a topic of discussion for years between she and I.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, so the goodness of the intention doesn't excuse the hurt or shittiness of the action or inaction on my part.
Yeah.
She got dehydrated recently. She had been sick, and she ended up in the hospital. And I just happened to text her that day and, you know, hey, what's up? And she sent me a picture of her, you know, in the ER. And I was, oh, my God, you know, what happened? Are you okay? And she told me. I didn't respond. I'm pretty sure I didn't respond. And I think the next morning I checked on her again and then didn't respond. And then I haven't checked on her again in like 3 weeks. I think about her every day.
Sure.
And in my mind, I was like, that's good enough.
Yeah, that's
my
me.
intention is good.
I do that all the time.
I think about her every day, and I hope she's okay. That's not okay for her, though. So I finally texted her last night and said, hey, you know, I love you. And she texted me back and said, it really hurt me that you didn't check on me. And I knew it was coming. I knew, you know, but I've been lying to myself this whole time. But something in the back of my head knew what I was doing here. But I wasn't willing to take the next step until last night. And so, and this whole time I've been really trying to get clear with myself, like, she has told me in the past how she needs me to show up as a friend. And I've been doing really good, you know, at no expense to myself. Yeah. Being a good friend to her. And I fell off the wagon for the past 3 weeks, I think it's been. And I've been really trying to get clear with myself, like, what happened, you know? And I can't handle medical shit. I can't do it. yet. At this point in my life, I can't do it. It causes
There's a trauma around
a
it.
reaction inside of me that just shuts the motherboard down. You know, I get numb about it. I convince myself that fine, everything's fine. You know, I've got these good intentions in my head. I'm thinking about her, sending her light, love, and laughter, you know, and everything's fine. But it's not. She
Right.
needs me to show up for her. And so to me, the action then becomes, because I can't do it. I can't show up for her that way right now. And not that everything, like things happen to her medically all the time, but like this was a big deal.
Yeah.
I've got to tell her that.
Yeah.
I've got to communicate that to her so that she can then have that information and make a decision for herself.
Sure.
You know, I can't keep that information to myself because I mean, that's just mean.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's a part where you empathize with the fact that you haven't shown up.
Yes.
You know, like,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry I haven't been the friend you needed me to be.
Yes.
And I've sat with that, and I've done some soul searching, and I've recognized this thing about myself.
Yes.
You
And
know?
so, yes. And so, and also I don't need to beat myself up
Sure.
about it, you know, because I'm real clear. Like you said, I mean, there's trauma around it.
Yeah.
Why I cannot act in that way for her.
Sure.
You know, and
Yeah.
I don't need to beat myself up. I just need to be clear.
Yeah.
And I just need to be honest with her
Yeah.
about why, you know,
Absolutely.
and empathize with her. And I did last night. And I said, you know, yeah, that makes sense. That I understand how that hurts. Yes. And I haven't heard from her. I'll hear from her though. I mean, she, you know, she's not petty like that. And neither am I. You know, none of my close circle of friends
Sure.
are petty, you know, and
Right.
it's not personal or anything. It's just she's taking care of herself
Yeah.
as a reaction to me taking care of myself, you know?
And part of reclaiming ourselves in life in general is getting clear on the fact that we have needs, and not every one person can't meet all of
Yes.
those needs. And, you know, and so it's like, even with friendship, I have the friend I can connect with every day, and we're talking about day-to-day stuff, right? You know, and it's deep stuff, it's real stuff, it's present stuff, but they're the day-to-day friend, you know. And then I have a whole host of, I have a friend that, you know, if all hell breaks loose and we're sick, she's going to like leave her job downtown and drive and give us soup, you know?
Yeah.
Or if my kid is stuck somewhere, you know, like I know, like, about you, like, you know, we're not everyday friends. We're deep friends. We're check in, you know, send each other memes. And then when everything's blowing up, you know, we connect friends.
Yeah.
But, you know, I know, like, if something's going on with my kids and I need somebody to pick up one of my kids, I could call you. You would totally go get one of my kids. My kids know that if they're in an emergency and they can't get me, they can call you.
Yeah.
Like, you're that friend, right? And it's like, the beautiful thing about it is, when I stop trying to expect one person to be all of those things and I have a tapestry of friends that make that framework, then, you know, the framework, the tapestry is the whole picture.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And there's seasons where people may have to step out of those roles, right? There's seasons where
Yes.
people have to move forward and move back. There's the challenges of us as friends to take care, like to recognize why we're not showing up in a certain way and say, can I show up in that way?
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm ever going to be the person who's going to be like super not awkward when I'm interacting with people at a funeral.
Yeah.
Funerals are spaces I hated before I got sober and really struggled with after I got sober. Actually, in early sobriety, I didn't go to funerals for the longest time. You know, like, even for close people. I mean, when Curtis died, you know, I went to the family visitation, but I didn't do the funeral. You know, I just have this deep well of grief and loss that just gets tapped. And when I'm sitting there with the other person, I take on everything that they're feeling, you know, like it becomes part of who I am. And I, you know, trauma bond or whatever you want to call it. But in that moment, I don't have that boundary up. And so I protect that for me and for the other person. And I don't always, it's not the time, you know, I'm sorry I missed a funeral because I can't manage my shit around you. It's not the time to talk about it, but later, you know, I check in and do those things.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's, you know, part of it is reclaiming ourselves. It's just being clear on what we can provide and taking the responsibility back to ourselves.
Yes. And honest with our limitations.
Yeah.
Because we've all got them.
Yeah. And we're
Lots of them.
Yeah. So I think, you know, I just think it, and we all do it. I think that the wrapping point I want to make is, you know, I think in rapping, one of the things is, understanding we all do it. We all have places and spaces in our life where we have intentions that don't align with our actions. Most of us can relate to it with nutrition and exercise, right? You know, but it's really important to think, like I use this example, and this is a reconciliation piece to kind of close it up, which is like, how many times have we thought, God, I need to work out. And we lay on the couch. If you've ever lifted weights, you know what it's like to feel your muscles, right? And like, I can literally visualize what it feels like to lift weights, and I get relief from the shame I feel about for not lifting weights.
Yeah.
Literally, because I've made a decision, I've visualized it. My brain's like, here's the feel good chemicals that normally come with that, right? It's like cueing from the environment that happens. And so all of a sudden the feel good things come in, and I haven't changed shit.
Yeah.
But I feel better because I thought about it and visualized it. I was a frog sitting on the log, and I decided to jump, but I didn't actually jump, but I felt better because I decided to jump. And the important thing to understand is no matter how much we think about things, our brain picks up everything based on habits and actions. So our intentions are null and void when it comes to creating things in our lives. And our brain prioritizes what's important and creates more space for that in our brains by what we put our attention to and our actions to. You know, like it's just the way the brain works. It literally is highly evolved to pick up on patterns. And so not patterns of thought, but patterns of action. It's why they say you can't think yourself into right living. You have to act your way into right thinking, or change your thinking through your actions, right? Move a muscle, change a thought, you know, all those kinds of things. Like we can't disrupt the thought process through thinking about it. No. So,
we cannot.
We can change it through reflection, because reflection allows us to see where there's disconnect.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the things to understand is that a lot of times when we have good intentions, we get buried in other things, because that way we can avoid it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And reflection being honest reflection about the good intentions. And one last point that I wanted to make about this whole good intention, because I had it spoken to me a lot, you know, about this person's good intentions, good intentions.
Well, there's a Bible verse about that, but go ahead.
Yeah. The belief that I'm speaking for everybody, but I'm speaking for everybody, that I can separate my intrinsic wants and needs from another person who I am trying to, let's just say, manipulate in some way, shape, or form, is impossible. So my good intention serves me.
Yeah.
It maybe every once in a while I might hit it right and it serves the other person, but most of the time my good intention is good for me.
Yeah.
It's not good for the other person necessarily. Right. And so
which is where the lack of compassion and empathy comes from,
yes.
right? Like that's why the person reacts to your
right. Yeah. Right. Has such a visceral and powerful response that is shocking to me. You know, like, oh, but it was a good intention. You know, that's why my reaction to her last night sending me that, it wasn't powerful, because I knew.
Yeah.
I knew that my good intention with thinking about her only and sending her love, light, and laughter was not what she wanted.
Right.
It was not good for her.
Yeah.
The text or the phone actually, you know, would have been what was good for her, but it wasn't good for me.
Right.
But I've been wrapping it up nicely in this whole good intention thing.
Yeah.
And it's bullshit.
Yeah.
It is such bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, I live my life on the idea of good intentions. When I was out there drinking and using, and the first time I worked 12 steps, and it's funny because like for those of y'all who don't know anything about it, like I can't contextualize it, but like when you go to like taking an inventory, which most people think is like flogging yourself, it's not. It's literally seeing the like ultimately what you're seeing over and over and over again is you have these like lists of resentments and fears of other people, places, and institutions. And then like you do this like digestion piece of it. And then you recognize like, oh wait, this is where I had all these intentions, but the resentments were really related to people reacting to me fucking shit up.
Yeah.
You know, and it says like another thing that happens with good intentions too is sometimes like we're like a tornado. It says like there's a part in the book where it says like we're like the couple coming out of the storm cellar after a tornado, and you know the dad says, "Gee, Ma, ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?" It's like, aren't you glad I'm sober now?
Yeah.
It's like, no, if it was just about stopping the behavior, like amends is about. And that's the thing about intentions and the harm caused with intentions is it's more than I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's more than I'm sorry. It's literally sitting with humility, the idea that it's going to take time to build trust, or take time to, you know, build connection, or take time to, you know, walk through the hard stuff. It's going to take consistent action.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not always going to get it right. So we have to have forgiveness with each other when we're walking through that kind of stuff. But like, you know, when you keep showing up in the realm of intentions, it actually drives away trust.
Oh, yeah.
It drives away connection. It erodes all the things that you think you're wanting because of your intentions, but you're not actually getting because there's no action behind it.
Yeah. Yes.
You know,
it's
it
like, how
erodes.
long can you balance on a tightrope, you know? I mean, you cannot stay in intentionality for very long.
Right.
And that's different for everybody.
Right.
I don't have the resiliency to sit in intentionality for very long.
Right.
Like with
I don't
other
either.
people.
Mm-hmm.
I would like them to sit in my intentionality for a very long time.
Right.
You know?
Well, and then, you know, the reconciliation piece is like, you know, you go through, you see that, you know, become aware of it, you make a commitment to making a change around it. Then you also digest how I need to go acknowledge to this person.
Yes.
Not say I'm sorry, because I'm sorry. Like, you know, if you've ever been around somebody who says I'm sorry all the time, you're like, what the fuck are you saying I'm sorry for?
Right.
Like, there's not, why are you saying you're sorry? And you get to like, you evolve to like, there's nothing to be sorry for. And then, you know, it's like, can you tell me what you're sorry for? And then that's like highlighting the lack of intention or lack of action. And then there's conflict around that question. You know, it's like, stop saying you're sorry and start showing up.
Yes. Or either tell me, I can't do this.
That. Mm-hmm. And
one of them.
Here's the thing. in talking about your friend, right? So you're going to own that, like, I have this trauma around this, like I can't show up around medical stuff, and she has to make a decision.
Right.
Like owning it doesn't mean there's still not a consequence to it.
Yeah.
You know, the bigger piece is owning it is the piece where we allow somebody to do we give them the freedom to disconnect from us and go do what they need to do.
Yeah.
You know, and if they stay, that's great. We can work through it. They can accept that. There's forgiveness and there's healing because you're being honest about what you can and can't do. But then you can't say, I can't do that, and then keep trying to grab the person back.
Yes.
That's not fair either. You know, so in this, you got to be honest. And if that's not enough for that
Light bulb
friendship,
just went on.
for that friendship, then it's not enough for that friendship or that a relationship. And if you keep grabbing the person back, you're eroding it over time anyway.
Yeah.
Like it gets eroded anyway. You're not saving anything.
Yeah. And at some point, there is no more ground left.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, so how do you grab yourself back from it? You make that space for yourself. Like, first of all, you have to assess, can I make space for myself? If you can, how do you continue to build that out? Like, you know, and do those things, you know? And so like, I think that, you know, for me, what I got this past weekend was space, like to realize that I have to do that. And it's going to be uncomfortable and awkward for a little while, as it always is when you're making change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't have any other point of wisdom about that.
No.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you. You know, I do appreciate this vulnerable space. And you know what? This is real life, y'all. Like, this is long-term relationship with anybody. Again, parenting, friendship, you know, marriage, long-term couplehood, you know, like this is the stuff. This is the stuff that helps us. Like, it literally is an invitation to grow.
Yeah.
It's an invitation to grow. You know, and that's the beauty of it. That's where I want to leave off. It's like, that's the beauty of it. Is like we reclaim ourselves when we stop externalizing the responsibility to take care of ourselves to another person, and we grow. We grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Did you have anything else?
Nah.
Oh, we went long for that one, but I think it's okay. I think it was good. I mean, I'm kind of biased.
Yeah, I'm not thinking. I know. It was good.
It's amazing. Well,
ask us, we'll tell you.
Tell me your sins, child. Tell me your sins. So
I have none.
Thank you for being here with us. Sister Brene presided over us today. Thank you for being with us and just taking the time to just share with us. And if this hits you, reach out to us. Like, you can reach out to us through the Facebook or Instagram.
She just said the Facebook
page, and or Instagram. You can connect with us personally if you know us, or if you can find us. We're on the pages, so you can find us. And thanks as always to Scott, our media guy, Palmetto Moose Productions, and he's the the man with the plan, the one that keeps us all put together. And you can catch us. You can actually watch us and hear us on YouTube and Facebook. You can hear us on Spotify, and it's what Apple Podcasts now, I think they call it. Yes. And did I miss anything? That's it. And we're on the social channels, so we'd love to connect with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we'll go from there.
Word.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We love you. I love you.
I love you, girl.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.